Welcome back to the podcast. My guest this week is Jake Belvin. Jake is a freelance photographer, videographer, and small business owner based right here in Denver, Colorado. He specializes in travel, tourism, and documentary storytelling. In 2003, he graduated from the University of Colorado in Boulder before serving as an officer in the U.S. Navy and went on to study photography at the Art Institute in Denver. He's been shooting professionally since 2013. Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
No problem. Thank you.
So, Jake, let's start back at the beginning. Tell us where you grew up and what life was like growing up.
I grew up in Maryland, right on the coast near Annapolis. I don't know, pretty normal life, I guess. Just was a kid, went to school, played in the woods. Yeah.
Awesome. So you come out here to CU Boulder, and that's kind of what brought you out to
Yeah.
Colorado?
Yeah, and I was gone for a few years, but then I've pretty much been here ever since.
Awesome. So how do you think that your upbringing impacted your eventual career and professional journey?
Um, I do something I like, and my parents were always very supportive of me doing whatever I wanted to. Like they wanted me to do all the things you're supposed to, like go to college, which is part of the reason I did. Maybe I would have otherwise, but I did some photography projects, courses when I was a little kid and kind of just liked it and, a ton of different activities all the time. But, that's one I've always come back to, and I always made, video projects with kids in school, making little films on a VHS camcorder and editing them on a computer screen and a computer and graphics and stuff. So, I've done that for a long time and, sort of got away from it for a bit, with school and everything. But, it's always something I've liked and, was always supported or was never not supported. So, that, I'm sure that had an influence.
So can you take us through your career journey and where you started out and the different professional stops that you've taken along the way?
Yeah, I started, so kind of before I started to go into photography, I was between jobs and wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I was traveling a bunch and just kind of, doing random work in Boulder for people I knew and things like that. And, I was taking a lot of photos while I was traveling. So I decided maybe I would try that out for a few years and see if it, could be a job, which I didn't really think would work out so well. It could, but, it's not common that someone can do that, full time or whatever. It's kind of anything. I also debated going to culinary school because I like to cook too, but it's kind of one of those things where if that becomes your job, you might hate it and not ever want to do it unless you're working. So I didn't do that. But I looked at schools and ended up going in Denver instead of moving somewhere else for that. The school had a good faculty that was working and, not just teaching and all those things. So kind of made the decision after a while based on that. Went to school, did an internship in school, I had a pretty good, with a previous degree, the school was pretty, sorry, it says my internet connection is unstable. So if I fall, but the, what was I saying? The school has a pretty rigid curriculum. It's hard to change it, but that was a bachelor's program, already having a bachelor's, I kind of had most of my requirements done. So I was able to take a lot of, upper level or whatever courses, photography specific courses, which was nice. Definitely helped with, learning more, but more of that was about different classes that involve photography projects where you go shoot for a different client or something. And that, being able to do that real life working stuff was helpful to, sort of let me know how to do it or how it was done in the real world before I finished. So then when I finished, I was, just shooting a lot of different random stuff, shooting weddings, shooting portrait stuff for clients and everything. And I, I just reached out to a lot of people who did sort of what I wanted to do, which was, travel and tourism related stuff. And they, I got some work from some of them, and I've been continued to shoot for some of them for a while. I got recommendations from them for other people. And then I guess, pretty much that's it. It's not, that big of a story. The other big thing I'd say though, is when I was in school, I did, some of it was probably the flexibility to kind of have a course load that I wanted, but I also took some time off at least twice while I was in school for about 6 months. And I went, and traveled for most of that time. And then while I was traveling, I shot photo projects that I either had set up beforehand in the rare case or just kind of found as I went. And, it was not really a job. So I wasn't working for, a job yet, a career or whatever. So I wasn't working for free, but I would trade for, room and board and different things like that while I was traveling, and that, more than paid for itself in my situation. So that was nice too. But
That's awesome.
yeah, that's about it.
So, you brought up that you kind of were able to reach out to other travel photographers and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. Did you find that you were able to get a lot of support from other people in the industry?
Well, I didn't necessarily reach out to other photographers. I've found generally there is a lot of support, like on jobs that I've shot with other people that are there for, maybe for a different client or something on the same project, but, sometimes the same. And people are generally very supportive. Who I reached out to was basically people, like production companies making films, basically people that would need to hire me. So I was like, hey, here's my stuff. Here's what I do. I do similar things. If you need anybody to edit, to shoot or anything, and just try to kind of like get in the door that way. I did an internship with one company that was kind of just like an editing internship for probably 6 months or something, off and on without too heavy of a workload. And then after that, I've been doing stuff for that company ever since. So, I think the biggest thing there is just meeting people, networking, and, as much as they always say networking, but I mean, like if you know people and meet people and, get along with them, then that seems to work out well. And then the more people when you talk to somebody else at a trade show or something, they can be like, oh, do you know so-and-so? You're from Denver. And if you do, it helps the conversation.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of businesses, networking is so important. How has networking really helped you and your business succeed?
Just finding more work, and part of it, part of the networking I think that's important, and part of the reason I chose the school that I did, just with the faculty that, was experienced and also doing real time, shooting for Apple and stuff like that. They weren't just people like who could teach something, which is pretty much anybody. So that, sort of pre-production network, as far as like if some job came up that was big and I was going to apply for it, I could just reach out to somebody I knew through that, or to an instructor and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm going to do, let me know what you think. And then, at some point it's not knowing anything and having to ask questions and everything. And then, it kind of reaches a point where you know how you would do it, and you're kind of just bouncing ideas off other people. Maybe they get something out of it, maybe you get something out of it. But that exchange and kind of different ideas, because you always forget things or miss something or say like, oh, that's a really good point,
Now, as a photographer and, being in the military, where do you think you learned a lot of the business tips and tricks that kind of helped you create a successful business? The freelance journey is always up and down. How has, any of your schooling, or did you have a mentor that really kind of helped guide the way for you in navigating your small business path?
I pretty much hate business a lot. I majored in molecular biology at CU because I enjoyed it in high school and I think it's neat and I still do, but didn't really plan to do anything with it, just because that's like big pharma companies and all this stuff. And like really just because you're stuck in a lab under fluorescent lights all the time. And when you leave your project for a couple of days and someone else takes care of it, inevitably everything dies. You have to restart. So It's just not, you're kind of stuck to, the lab or a desk or whatever, which is not what I wanted and didn't expect to be able to do something else really. But I switched to business for a semester in college. I was like, oh, this is practical. I can use this in the future. They always talk about MBAs and stuff. And, this would be background to have regardless of what I investing, understanding the economy and stuff. And I had some great instructors that semester that I was really impressed by. I went to probably the first class of every class. And I was like, wow, this guy really knows his stuff and he's charismatic and he's really into economics or, whatever other aspect. And then I just didn't like it at all, regardless of the instructors. So I sort of didn't go to class, went in and took the test. I mean, it was all, 101 intro level stuff. So it wasn't hard, but I finished that semester with a lot of free time and switched back to biology afterwards. So I don't really like business. I mean, that being said, I do, like I tried for the longest time to get somebody to do my taxes, and I had a few different accountants and stuff, and just none of them really worked out that well, or because it wasn't worth the money I was paying them. And I talked to some tax accountants to try and get it figured out. And they were like, show me what you got. And I showed them and they were like, this is pretty good. You probably shouldn't pay us. And I was like, all right, fine. So then like with TurboTax and one recommendation I'd have for a freelancer, any small business owner that's, a very small business, themselves or just a few people is QuickBooks Self-Employed, which is from the TurboTax people. It's like just an app and you can track mileage and receipts and expenses. It's great. It makes things so much easier. So I don't usually like to use things like that because there are always other ways to do it, but that's kind of a good product and getting better. So just, through that, and then that links to everything. And of course they're trying to keep you in a little fold of TurboTax and everything, get you to not use someone else and use, their product, but do a decent job at it. And I think I have enough of an understanding if I kind of keep on top of things and follow it, which I don't like, but it's also nice to know why things are happening like they are with your money and what you can do to change them sort of in real time. So to that extent, I care about it because it kind of matters for okay, what do I need to do to get more money basically and more jobs that I want and more clients, that I like to work with, do good projects.
See, and that brings up my next question here. What do you do for marketing for your business? How are you finding new clients and customers these days?
Like I said before, it's mostly word of mouth stuff. And then there are several people that I work with that I have worked with for a long time. So maybe I'll shoot for them all the time or just sometimes. And some of that actually too is other photographers that I've done some work for or just collaborated with. And they'll reach out to me and say basically, hey, are you in town? I have this project this weekend. I have this project in 2 months, but it's going somewhere in Colorado, somewhere in the West or something. And I need somebody else to come come shoot with me. So that kind of just those connections makes that work out. And if I am available for that, that's good, and it's a good, short, little good job. And then, yeah, I guess another avenue I've gone down is even recently, sort of just pre-COVID, is just looking on job sites. There's all.
You there? Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, I lost you there for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, my internet just reconnected. And I didn't realize it had disconnected.
Oh no. So you said you go on to a different lot of job sites to try and find different clients.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much. Yeah. And what happens on the job sites is you'll get a lot of stuff that's, $10 an hour for newborn photography and stuff, and things that aren't really all that appealing or worth the time. But you will also get things that actually look pretty good, pretty cool, and you can look up the companies. You don't have to actually subscribe to the job sites or anything. I should fill out my profiles there and do more like that, which I really do need to do more of. But, a lot of times if you see, or when I've seen something that I thought looked interesting, video production or photography shoots, I just go look up the company and then contact them and say, hey, I heard you were hiring, heard you were looking for somebody. Here's my website. Here's my portfolio. can send you a resume if you want, but this is what I do. This is what I'm interested in. Let me know if you have anything. And then they usually get back and say, oh yeah, hey, that looks great. Let's sit down. And they usually have a meeting over coffee or something and just kind of like, they ask the same stuff as this, just questions about you, questions, how you work and stuff, and try and like, feel you out through an interview. And then, generally that turns into shooting a project, which is an individual contract, but at that point you've still made the contact, or it might be something more ongoing. And then if you do a job for them and they, it's always good when you do a job for someone and you fairly obviously do it better than people they've worked with in the past, because they're like, oh, okay, we need to do more things, and I have some ideas I want to bounce off you, and how would you do this, and what do you think about this? So I guess just looking for stuff and getting out there. One thing I haven't done, there are also like marketing companies that I guess aren't necessarily strict marketing companies, but they're, marketing companies for photographers. So they'll find jobs for you, or look for, basically they'll send you things you can apply for kind of. And I don't necessarily know, it seems like a good idea, and I don't necessarily know how those type of companies work and what the costs are and everything, but that's the kind of thing that, like, especially having some more free time now, it's like, all right, I need to spend a little more time. I basically need to like dedicate more to my marketing and advertising budget and get more work out of it than the little that I do now. And that, is one of those business things I hate, like, oh, let's actually use that and spend some money to find, new clients, basically by paying people who do that as their job.
So talk to us a little bit about your website and your social media. How are you utilizing those to act as an online resume for your company and your services?
I'm not a big fan of social media. I have all the pages, and I keep in touch with people there, and I'll send people stuff and everything. I'm not on there all the time looking through stuff, but I'll use them sometimes. And then website for I guess any freelancer that does something you can look at is a good source, because people can actually just go there and look at it. Kind of like the same thing as Instagram. You could have stuff on Instagram and use that as your website or portfolio, because all it really is, they're looking at it, in my experience, and saying like, hey, like your stuff, let's talk. It's not, they're not interacting. I've done some client interaction stuff on the website and people can log in and everything, but I do that so infrequently because I'm not usually shooting something directly for a single person or for a organization that needs it delivered via like, I guess the family portrait kind of style stuff is the thing where they want to log in and they want to look at their image. Can you see me?
Oh, there we go. There you are.
All right. Yeah, cut off again.
um,
So did I cut off?
yeah, go ahead and finish. Sorry.
What's the last thing I said you heard?
Yeah, you've had a lot of people on your website that have reached out and been that first point of contact for inquiring for your service.
Sure, yeah. Basically just, it's good to have, I guess, a good looking website. Whenever you look at it or think about updating it, you could always do something better and something you want to do. And I've even looked at it in the last week and been like, oh, I should make this, and this change. But just having portfolio available online and, an easy way for people to get in touch, which sometimes people will see your website and get in touch from that, and not be spam. But, I think I just like to have it simple and clean and a way people can, see what you're doing. And then, like I said, sort of just as like a stepping point for an actual conversation, whether it's, on Skype or Zoom or the phone, whatever.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received, and how has it impacted your business?
That's a good question. It's probably don't work for free.
Absolutely. If you always need to, charge what you're worth. Now, before we finish up, is there anything that I didn't ask you about during today's discussion that you think is important to share?
No, I think your questions are pretty good. Important in terms of what? Like what kind of, I don't know what your audience for this is, like what you're kind of looking at on the marketing or small business side or whatever. What kind of direction are you trying to take this?
Oh, yeah, just if there's anything that, someone said to you along the way, don't ever work for free, and any other types of important things that you learned, like you said, business business school wasn't your thing, but you realize now, you need to use business for a variety of aspects for your job. And networking is super important. I mean, you hit on a lot of important parts during today's episode. So I mean, if there was just any other thing where like, oh, you know what, I need to make sure I say what my professor talked to me about and in college, or one of my,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say one thing is sort of unstable again. I still connect. So you there?
Oh, yes, yay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know what's going on with my internet today.
Everyone's on it.
So yeah, yeah, right. One thing I thought of is sort of an extension of the don't work for free thing, but it's more, as far as specifics of how to do that is just, don't, part of being, I guess, don't work for free. And from the same person is, don't basically give away anything for free, which is sort of, for photography or for freelancing, but I mean, this business negotiation style stuff or whatever, like, which is, I guess, what you're doing when you're, negotiating a contract, is, if they're like, oh, can you also do this? Can you throw in this too? While you're there, can you do this? You need to be like, you easily can most of the time, but, give, have it be beneficial for you to say, yeah, I could do that, but we're going to adjust this, or like, I can do that, but it's going to take this much time, or we're going to take off this much time, kind of thing. So,
Absolutely.
negotiation style there. And I mean, besides that, I mean, maybe just, people talking about, working for clients that you want to work for, and basically not doing, which is, tough because you got to make money, but, it's the kind of thing too, where, I mean, I have worked for people that I don't really enjoy working for them, or I don't want to do that work, or I don't like the environment, and it's didn't prevent me from working for them because I didn't know, or maybe had a suspicion, but, definitely good to kind of cut those ties appropriately and, as nicely as you can, if possible, and not just get stuck in doing that. And I mean, I guess along those lines too, is just kind of keeping your, um, time, I don't know, available, or keeping your options open, as far as, which isn't really the right way to say it, but maybe more so not being tied to a specific client, or not letting someone monopolize your time and say, hey, we're going to do this, and, having it become, because I mean, if you're working freelance, you need to be making enough that you can work freelance, because you're not doing it 9 to 5 every day at a desk and getting benefits and getting, you're paying
Vacation.
self-employment tax and all these things. Yeah, so you need to have, basically needs to pay a lot more for a shorter amount of work. So if somebody's trying to monopolize your time and not pay you that much, then other jobs come up and you can't take them, or you don't have time to find other jobs. That sort of just means you're working a 9 to 5 and you're paying your own taxes. And
Yep.
so
No,
just
absolutely. And I
yes.
think that a lot of small businesses and freelancers both, it's so hard to say no to money, but finding the right client that fits you and your business practice is part of the whole reason why you started your own business and why you freelance. So I think that that's a very important thing to bring up. Well, Jake, this has been such a great conversation. Where can we find out more about you and your business online?
At jakebelvin.com.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show today.
All right, great talking with you. Thanks.